Now Honda, like a lot of other manufacturers, are looking to manufacturers who will build boats to exactly match their power units. And one of the first boats on the Australian market to be accepted by Honda as a boat which is ideally powered by Honda is the Markham Dominator Passport. Now it's a 5-metre cat. Let's take a close look at it. Now Mark Hookham has been in business for around about 25 to 28 years. In fact, he won a couple of Boating Magazine design awards way back in the mid-70s and has been in business building power tunnels ever since. And as a result of that, the underwater contours of these boats have evolved over that period of time. And I was really quite astonished. I mean, we drove these boats in a fairly choppy day, as you can see from these pictures here. There was a stiff northerly blowing straight down the Gold Coast Broadwater off Runaway Bay Marina, and it was a short, sharp and quite nasty chop. Now, these boats reacted to the chop, of course. They bobbed their nose up and down, but at no time was I able to make the hull slap or pound, no matter what angle I drove it to the waves. So in spite of the fact that I was popped up and down by the choppy water, I did not suffer any compression of vertebrae, which is a fairly common experience when you're driving monohulls in these sort of conditions. I was truly astonished at how softly and smoothly this boat ran. And I was also extremely impressed with its turning performance. Some of the early power tunnels had a rather disconcerting tendency to lean out in a turn. And that led to discomfort on the part of the passengers and particularly the driver, and the boat certainly didn't feel secure. These boats lean very definitely into a turn in a pretty well exactly the same way as a monohull does, which is really a valuable attribute as far as a power tunnel is concerned. To give you dimensions, the overall length is 5 metres or 16 feet 4, and this is a very large boat for that overall length. Beam is 2.29 metres or 7 feet 5. The approximate weight is 1,500 kilos, the towing weight, and the power is twin Honda 50 horsepower 4-stroke engines fitted with 13-inch propellers. Now, the boat is superbly fitted out inside. Mark presents his boats quite magnificently. In fact, he exports quite a lot of boats, so he has to. The overall layout inside is comfortable and extremely usable and beautifully presented, and this really is a powerful offering into the market for Honda's first, if you like, badge engineered pleasure or commercial boat. Now let's have a close look at the hull contours. Now Mark has been kind enough to send me one of his tank test models for one of his larger boats, but the hull contours remain the same under the water, and it's very interesting to see how this boat works. For instance, the hulls are asymmetric. Most conventional catamarans have a keel down the centre and dead rise on either side. In fact, they're two long, narrow monohulls which are linked together side by side. This boat is not like that. The hulls are totally asymmetric. And in fact, the outside contours at the bow are almost vertical, as you can see from that contour there, whereas on the inside, they're quite full and they're sloped in, and the actual plan view of the hull is also asymmetric. Now, that line there changes in dead rise for the full length of the boat from positive to negative dead rise down the after end. It has a remarkably small degree of V down the after end, which of course is offset by the fact that it has a tunnel and it won't pound down aft as a result of that. The hydraulicing and the pressure in the tunnel eliminates any pound. That small V on the after end gives the boat a huge amount of lift, which obviously means that it will run with moderate horsepower. And these contours up forward, with the progressive change in dead rise and the progressive change in sections, is the factor that totally eliminates any chance of slapping or pounding on a chop. Now, we tested this boat from Runaway Bay Boat Sales. Bill Frankhauser is both a Honda and a Dominator Passport dealer located at Runaway Bay Marina, and he happened to have in the yard this Markham 4.3 metre, which was fitted with a 50 horsepower Honda. And most unusually, the Honda is fitted on one side of the boat. In fact, this has been something of a specialty of Mark Hookham, fitting the engine on one hull, giving you a single engine catamaran, which is a great advantage. Now, in theory, the weight of the motor is offset by the weight of the driver, and that can be further trimmed up when you add fuel and a battery by moving the battery around, so you suffer no real disadvantage. Now, the hull contours of this boat are identical to the ones that I showed you on the model and of the 5 metre, as they are identical with all of the other Markham hull contours. And once again, I found that no matter what I did, I could not make this boat pound or slap on the waves. It handles superbly. Its turning to the left was nowhere near as good as its turn to the right, but it still turned acceptably to the left, and to the right it would turn almost in its own length. Obviously that's an effect of the asymmetric power setup. But this is not a ski boat. It's a boat which will run long distances in a straight line, taking people to where the fish are and back. And so therefore its turning performance really isn't a priority as far as setting it up is concerned. Now, Bill Frankhauser is looking at the setup, and Mark Hookham assures me that with previous experience this boat can be made to turn perfectly in both directions. Now, it is so solidly built, it's filled with positive buoyancy foam that, as Mark Spracher says, you could cut it in half with a chainsaw and bring 2 people home, or 4 or 6 people home, in both halves of the boat by paddling them home. It is totally unsinkable, an absolutely superb addition to the small runabout and fishing boat market. Now, the Passport Dominator has been set up by Honda. It comes complete with its engines already fitted, and obviously it's also backed up by Honda's warranties and service and customer support system. The 5-metre Passport Dominator and the 4.3-metre Dominator, both powered by Honda. We'll be back right after this break.